What's good, everybody? It's the Clown of a Cab Show. What a sweet 16. First and foremost, shout out to St. Peter's, the underdog, the Cinderella. They are the first 15th seed to make the Elite Eight. Look, they should not hang their hats. They should not be, crying or sad about it. Look, it was a great journey for St. Peter's. After all, they were a 15th seed. They should have never even been in that spot, but it really was a great coach. Shout out to Coach Max Holloway. He was a great coach. He had him well disciplined, and I think, it came up short against North Carolina in that Elite Eight game. We saw the difference maker in the talent, in the big man, in the paint. We saw all that, but I just think for St. Peter's, it was a great run. It really was. Obviously, I wanted them to go to the Final Four. That would have been epic. I mean, this is a huge Cinderella upset. Like I said, the first 15th seed to make the Elite Eight. It's history. It's history in the making. It's great. And first, and speaking of St. Peter's, they beat Purdue. Look, looking at Purdue, it's the same result year in and year out dealing with the Purdue Boilermakers. And I love Matt Painter. I grew up 2 streets down from Matt Painter. Coach Matt Painter, good coach. But we look at his resume and say he's been with Purdue for a long time now. What has he done in Purdue? You know what I'm saying? Besides come up short each and every year they make it to the tournament. That's the result for Purdue. And to me, that's not the championship mentality. I do think Purdue should move on from Matt Painter. I mean, you guys are up 4 against St. Peter's with about 2 minutes to go in that game, and you guys somehow lose that game. And I'm looking at Coach Painter saying, what's going on? And they're down by 2 or 3 points late with like about a minute to go, and they're not fouling or trying to trap. They're just kind of, and we saw St. Peter's get away from their trap and their defense and waste about 10 seconds, at least 10 seconds on a couple possessions. That 10 seconds starts to add up. We really saw that. And to me, they just came up short. We saw Ivy come up short on that 3. He had a terrible game. You have to have your star players come out and play. I agree with that. I just think coaching-wise, I do think Purdue needs to move on from Matt Painter. I really do. It's just, like I said, they make it to the Sweet 16. They run deep. They do this and that. But at the end of the day, they have great talent. We look at Matt Painter. We go back to 2008 when they had Robbie Humble. They had Etwan Moore, an NBA player. I mean, the list goes on and on dealing with that, dude. I mean, Purdue's had so much talent throughout the years, nothing to show for it. So I do think they'll move on from Coach Matt Painter. Well respected from my hometown. Obviously, I'm rooting him on, but I just look at the facts and say, look, facts don't care about people's feelings. They really don't. And Purdue keeps coming up short. And shout out to St. Peter's. Obviously, they lost to North Carolina. North Carolina versus Duke in the Final Four. I told you guys go Duke. That was really my only pick that I've gotten right. Really, all my whole bracket. My whole bracket's been busted besides Duke. Duke's my only hope. Why did I go with Duke? Well, let's think of more logic with this. I said Coach K, he's got 5 national championships as a college basketball coach. That's ridiculous. Most wins all time from a college basketball coach in men's history. Look, Coach K's a legend, dude. He's a legend. He's an absolute legend, so this was a no-brainer for me. And this makes sense why, a lot of the parlay bets, a lot of the big whale bets were bet on Duke before the tournament started. Like, seriously, it wasn't rocket science or anything. It wasn't like, oh, what are we going to do? Like, what's going to happen to Duke? And Duke really did not pan out the season well, right? Against North Carolina, they're 1-1 in the series this year. We saw they did beat North Carolina by 20 the first time. Then the last home game for Coach K, they lost to North Carolina. They lost by like at least 10 plus. It was not a good game. It really wasn't. But I just think the way they do it, man, I'm telling you what, Coach K, there's something about Duke. Come around this time. Yes, Duke's been upset before, but I just think, man, it's incredible. It really is. And I just think for Coach K, it's amazing, dude. He's a Hall of Famer, first ballot. There's no way around it, dude. He deserves it. He deserves all the praise. This is his 13th Final Four appearance. It's amazing. It's one of those stories where it's like, it's really too good to be true, right? We look at Coach K and say, well, what does it look like? Coaching the Olympics, coaching LeBron, coaching the greats. It's amazing. So obviously Duke, North Carolina is going to be a heck of a matchup. And then we go to the Midwest region. Shout out to the Miami Hurricanes. They beat Iowa State. With the big win. Then they matched up against Kansas. And I thought, Miami really didn't play it into Kansas' hands. They did not really control the ball. They really just played sloppy in the second half. They're up 6 at halftime, and I'm thinking, man, they have a shot to defeat Kansas. They really do, and Kansas really turned it up a couple notches, and really their big man was the difference in that Kansas victory. So shout out to Kansas. Kansas has been to the Final Four countless of times, dude. They're a powerhouse organization. That's why I picked against Kansas, because we see them all the time, dude. Kansas, Kansas, Kansas. They've been in it for so long, and it's just like, when are we going to see an underdog? Obviously St. Peter's, but, I'm just tired of seeing Kansas in there all the time. I'm not a huge fan of Kansas. Yes, I do have 3 national championships, but we have to understand Indiana has more national championships than the powerhouse of Kansas Jayhawks. So, shout out to IU, even though they're not in it right now. But, looking at this, Kansas obviously huge. I would say a slight favor over Villanova. Villanova got the job done against Houston. I was definitely wrong on Arizona. I picked Arizona to go to the championship game. I truly thought Arizona had better players, which they did, but not always the better team wins. I think a lot of the key plays are definitely coaching. We look at coaching, and I think Arizona, that was their lack there. I mean, they didn't have the lack of athletes. They sure as heck did not. We saw Arizona, they have a first-round draft pick already, so, there wasn't anything about it. And I thought Arizona did not play a great game, and that's just what makes the NCAA tournament so great, right? We see these underdog teams, and I think that's why everybody loves it, is to see an underdog story, become a reality, a fairy tale, not seeing the best team always win, and that's why we love the teams like St. Peter's. To even go to the Elite Eight was amazing. Nobody really had them, except, obviously, unless you're a diehard St. Peter's fan, from you were born all the way up to now, but I just think for St. Peter's, yes, they did get a little lucky here and there, but that's what you have to do in the Sweet 16. To even make it to the Sweet 16, you got to catch breaks, and that's what they did. St. Peter's, they played great at the right times, played great against Purdue, probably their best game yet against Purdue. And I feel sorry for Purdue Boilermaker fans? Absolutely not. This is a story that I've seen over and over again. If I could compare it, it's like watching Notre Dame football. We watch Notre Dame football. We always have high expectations for Notre Dame football, right? Year in and year out. But, at the end of the day, it's kind of the same story for Notre Dame. They make it to the big game, and they lose the big game. Countless big games Notre Dame football has lost, year in and year out. And that's just the same for them, dude. It's just the same story for Purdue. And I don't have any empathy for them, but, it's awesome. It's March Madness, and most people's brackets were busted. They really were. But, people who pick Kansas and myself who picked Duke, you still got a shot. You really do, and I just think I would love to see that in the championship game, right? Kansas versus Duke, 2 big house school organization powerhouses going against each other. I think that'd be great for the viewers, for basketball fans all around the world. I think this is great. I think it's great for the sport. I really do, but we look at the bigger picture here. The Final Four is finally here. We got Duke and North Carolina. This is a heck of a matchup. So much history between Duke and North Carolina. Coach K throughout the years. It's been iconic, dude. North Carolina, Rory Williams, what a coach. Obviously, he retired this past year. He was at the game. It was awesome. It's one of those things where it's like, who's going to win? Who's going to come over the top? I cannot wait. Obviously, I'm sticking to my gut, my instinct of Duke and Coach K. That's what it is, dude. And Coach K, his resume speaks for itself. The numbers speak for themselves. The medals, the championships, everything that Coach K has achieved in his life. It's one of them things where it's like he will go down as the top 10 greatest coaches to ever coach the game of basketball, no matter what level it was. Was it the Olympics when he coached for USA, or was it college basketball? It doesn't matter. He's one of the top 10 greatest coaches ever, dude. Period. Coach K, mark it down. Top 10 ever. So I'd even put Coach K in the top 5. Who did Coach K learn from? The great Bobby Knight. He used to be an assistant for Bobby Knight. So I think that's what makes the story even so much greater. The general, learning from that, man. Shout out to Bobby Knight. One time for the one time. But, Coach, I can't wait. So we got Duke, North Carolina, Villanova versus Kansas. Really big powerhouse schools. To where we went into this Elite Eight, was like, wait a minute. We could have some, really upsets here. We could have Arkansas and St. Peter's, versus Miami. Miami and Houston. That would have been a crazy Final Four, right? Really small school teams, but I didn't think that. The Final Four, the cream always rises to the top. Once you make it to the Elite Eight, it's like, hey, this is where it separates the men from the boys here, right here. So, we saw St. Peter's, they got exploited, and really, it was over after the half. I feel like they were depleted. Everything just went wrong for St. Peter's in the way they played. But, they were playing North Carolina after all, so let's give them some empathy. At the end of the day, it was a great run. And I think St. Peter's, the whole organization, all the fans there, they should be happy about this, dude. They should be happy. They made history. They made history, dude. History will always remember St. Peter's. That's why I love the NCAA tournament. We'll always remember the underdogs. But who do I got? Obviously, I got Duke. I can't wait for this. I can't wait for the Final Four this weekend. I cannot wait. This is why college basketball is the greatest time, man. It really is. And I love basketball. It's the greatest sport. I think because, it's a team sport. Obviously, if you're an individual sport, go play golf or tennis or box, whatever. But being a team sport, you got to sacrifice for your teammates. And I think what Duke has done in the past 2 or 3 weeks, they've done a complete turnaround. From the end of the season, losing to North Carolina on Coach K's last home game, they did not look good. Going into this tournament, Duke was kind of like, what's going to happen? They could even lose to Michigan State. Straight up, they could lose to Michigan State in the second round. Some people were saying, but I never gave up. I never gave up hope on Coach K. I never gave up on their star players. Carroll, this guy's an NBA talent. They got so many good players on Duke to where it's like they're disciplined, they're well trained, and they're great, and one of the best coaches of all time, well coached. So I cannot wait, fellas. I cannot freaking wait. It's the NCAA March Madness, baby. The Final Four is here. It's the Cloud with Cab show. Let's go!